Yo, what's up? This your boy Rob Davis, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Let's Fail podcast. Yeah, you heard me right. Let's Fail. F-A-I-L. And I need y'all to remember, never fear failure, but always give your best to success. And in order to achieve, you gotta believe. You hear me?
God broke me down, God broke me down, God broke me, God broke me down, God broke me down, God broke me, God broke me down, God broke me down, God broke me, God broke me down, down, down. So that he could build me up. Can't think I'm playing out here, man. It's the show, not a game, big homie.
Hey, I'd like to welcome everybody back to the Let's Fail podcast, where we embrace failure as the essential stepping stones to our success. My name is Rob Davis, and today I got my man Marcus Atkinson here with me this week. And this episode, we just gonna talk about being a pivotal voice for the community, being in the public light, also what it is to be a leader in the fields and trials and tribulations and setbacks that come with that, personal and professional. We here like to take messy situations, unpredictable situations on our journeys and turn them into stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. I mean, that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. Bro, can I get you to introduce yourself to the crowd?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on today, man. My name is Marcus Atkinson, and my principal business is M. Atkinson and Associates Business Consulting. But I helped launch a nonprofit called the Eastside Renaissance. Does a lot of property acquisition and renovation and neighborhood revitalization. And I've got my hands to a couple other things as well. So all about community and all about trying to take care of my family.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Absolutely.
Just like I said before we got on the air, man, I just like to try to do this for the culture, give us some exposure, just restore some hope, to the community, you know what I mean? And I also want to give people a little backspin, Let's Fail. It's all about, like I said in the introduction, taking our failures and using them as pivot points of success.
Yeah.
Whatever they may be look like in life, we just gonna sit here, discuss, chop it up. I got some questions I want to ask you.
Absolutely.
Guidelines, and also just share your personal story, give people a little backspin, someday identify with, relate with, you know what I mean? And just go from there.
Yeah. I don't know how much of my backstory that you want. I'm a hometown guy, man. I'm born and raised in Erie. Lived in Detroit for a little bit when I was a kid, came back, and I'm a Lower West Side kid. I went to Emerson when there was an Emerson on the corner of 10th and Cascade. I went to Gridley, and then I went to Strong Vincent. So, my family came up in that area. I grew up in the King Center. I'm now the board chair of the King Center, and so in that respect, I'm giving back to help build an institution that has poured so much into me as a young person. Is important because a lot of my mentors came out of that facility, so that's exciting. And even the work that we're doing in community right now is very exciting. I lived in Atlanta for about 11 years, went to college down there, Clayton State University, learned the business hustle a little bit there, and I learned politics there. I was heavily involved with a lot of politicians there, Congressman David Scott, Mayor Shirley Franklin. We brought a lot of these people to Erie to speak before through the King Center. One of the individuals that I bought for the annual King Center dinner was Martin Luther King III. And we brought him in because I had a previous relationship with him through that network in Atlanta. Mm. Mayor Franklin came and she spoke here as well, through that network in Atlanta. So I learned a lot about Black politics, Black power, and Black economics in Atlanta because obviously, we're playing the game at the highest level there. I would like to think a lot of that has been transferable here. I think when I moved back from Atlanta, the people that have been watching me for the last 15 years or so, I've noticed that I moved a little differently when I came back from Atlanta. I think sometimes when you see better, you do better, you know better. And again, I got a chance to see Black folks perform at the highest level, man. And it's been very impactful.
I remember Martin Luther King III coming. I didn't know you was behind it.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you that. And I was kind of in awe that I was able to experience that for real. This is part of the legacy, Martin Luther King.
Oh, yeah.
Just to partake in that was pretty dope.
Well, yeah, as you know, I have my own podcast at WQLN, NPR, PBS, Next with Marcus Atkinson. Been doing that for about 7.5 years. But to go back to that MLK III appearance at the King Center annual dinner. I had the privilege of interviewing him after he spoke. It was 600 plus people, and you were there.
Yeah.
You could hear a pin drop, man. And one of the things I wanted to expose was COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, and the way tax dollars were being used to wage this underground war against his father and others.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring that to the forefront because it's one of those things that some people think is urban legend and urban myth.
Yeah.
And for him to actually put some teeth to the account so that people can see, wow, that's real. It was deep, man. It was a privilege.
Yeah. That's pretty dope. So like key discussion points, man, I want to start off with like the pressures of like public expectations and how being in the public eye amplifies the impact of failures and pressures to maintain that image.
Well, you know, it's an interesting question. When you talked to me about the subject matter, I thought, you know, certainly somebody should be taking this on because there's an evolutionary process to it. I have to say, at least it was for me. I find that as you get to know yourself better, the expectations of the public or the wanting to keep up a certain image becomes less and less important because you become more rooted and grounded in your own personal principles and what direction that you're going in. I think it's very hard, man. The gravitational pull of other people approving of you when you get pegged for leadership and when people start to look to you for leadership and, you know, they start to give you certain assignments is very intoxicating, man. So, you know, just keep it in 1,000 and you just find yourself wanting to make sure that you stay in a certain light when that first hits, man. And I watch other people go through it. I mentor a couple young bucks that are going through it now, and you see some of them handle it well, some not so much. And that period of you're the guy, right? It goes a lot of different directions. But I think during that time, you're the most susceptible to, I want to make sure that they view me a certain way. But if you keep going and you start to find your own voice, it starts to become less and less important. And you actually start to get into a position where you can dictate the terms of how you're viewed as a leader based upon the way you conduct yourself and that self-assured nature of that new season of just understanding yourself. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So like for me, I want to like know, how was that early experience getting into leadership? Like, what was the fears of like the doubts, the rise?
Yeah, and this is the part just that is, I think people should lean into. There was no fear on the front end because I was just doing what my spirit was convicted to do, and other people came along and started putting the leadership tag or title on me in motion. I didn't even view myself as such. I think about, and certainly not comparing myself to him at all, but just giving you a context that you may be able to understand. When E.D. Nixon from the Pullman Porters bailed out Rosa Parks, he was also one of the people that brought in Dr. King to the movement because they understood that Dr. King had a voice that was very important and very impactful. And he, I think, would agree with that, but he didn't see himself as a leader. He had no intention on leading this movement. It was thrust upon him. And you can look throughout history, various levels, locally, regionally, nationally, religious, what have you. In a genuine sense, I think most leaders have it thrust upon them. So all that to say, I wasn't thinking about the impact. I was just being Marcus. People started viewing me a certain way. Now, once it hit, you start to catch reactions from people. You know, your voice hits different, your actions hit different. And that's when I was more conscious of the fact that I was being viewed as a quote unquote leader to whatever extent. Then I started to be more, you know, analytical of the things that I said and the things that I did.
All right, so like, what challenges you was facing, like leading other people, the pushback, personal and professional, and like the credibility and trust. Like,
I think the primary challenge is always this. Let me give you an example. Bill Gates is at Harvard. And, you know, Bill Gates got a perfect score on his math SATs, right? Genius dude. He gets in there, he's trying to explain this concept to mathematic professors at Harvard. They don't get it. He gets it. They don't get it. He leaves campus to start building his dream of Microsoft. And so the question is, dude, when you're surrounded by these intellectual heavyweights, how do you know that the vision that you're being given is the vision, even when stone cold professionals don't see it? That's the tricky part, because the perspective that may be the most valuable on a given topic may be yours, right? And the ordination, may be on you to make a certain thing happen. And so it's hard to kind of decipher because you are surrounded by people that you respect. You're surrounded by people that are advisors, people that have more experience than you. But I'm a firm believer that if you're called to do a thing and you're equipped to do the thing, that the thing is yours to do. And sometimes things get dropped in your spirit that other people can't see, even if they're more experienced. That was and still is the tricky part, knowing that I think that the vision that I'm being given, or this gut feeling that I'm being given, that I feel, I'm gonna run with that, even if it flies in the face of the counsel that you're getting from people that may have helped you get there.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the drawback is, not even the drawback, the other side of that is you take everything that comes along with it, good, bad, or otherwise. But I would say that was probably the most challenging part and continues to be the most challenging part. And so it's this balance of, I'm going to take your good counsel, I'm going to take your lead, I'm going to ask for your advice. There are times where I've learned that voice that says, whether they see it or not, this is it, you need to rock with that.
Yeah.
Regardless of what their thoughts are.
All right, so like that leads me to this question. You gave me the backspin last time we met about the whole birth of the Renaissance.
Yep.
The East Side area and stuff, for people that's not familiar with the area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the demographic of the blacks and stuff. And like y'all took this on head on first, the challenge, right?
Yep.
So how did you use like the criticism that you was facing from that and the controversial stuff that came with it? I use that for growth.
Oh man, how real can we get on this show, bro?
We get real. So we get authentic.
Man, look, this is the hard part. And this is something that I tell my wife, boy. And, if you're listening, take this the right way. As a black man in this space, so often, unless you're willing to follow all of their orders, the white establishment doesn't want to see you win. Mm-hmm. They'll support you as long as it affects them, which is fine. These mutually beneficial relationships is what business is built upon. So that isn't in and of itself a negative. But there is this paternalistic relationship, especially in a city like Erie, between the white power structure and everybody else from the minority community that needs funding for various reasons. And so it's like, I got money for you, but I need to tell you how to work this thing. And they'll guise it in some slick languages and innuendos and everything. They'll never come right out and say, I want to be in control of how you move.
Yeah.
But there's always that kind of wink and nod when I'm going to give you this check for your project. And so you have that dynamic. The other dynamic that you have, you get a lot of pushback from black folk. Black folks, and this is why I referenced Atlanta in the beginning, black folk in Erie, and if you black and you listening to this, I need you to lean in because this is something that we all need to figure out collectively. There is a self-esteem issue with black folk in Erie. And I want to say that it's almost I can't see us as a people doing that, right? And I don't know what that is. I think because we haven't seen each other in as many leadership roles as we should have. I think it's the same mentality that allows black folk to go into white or foreign-run establishments and never ask for a hookup. And the minute somebody black is selling you the same thing at the same price, can I get it for $5 less? I didn't ask him that. Right.
Family discount.
It's something about seeing us in charge of something that we as black folks still haven't gotten comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the pushback comes from your own folks. And so the white power structure, they're there for you, but it comes with a lot of strings. And a lot of black folks just flat out don't want to see you win. And they can't even really explain it.
Okay.
I think it's some self-esteem issues going on. And it goes back to you being really convicted in your own spirit of, I know what I need to do.
I mean, I ain't trying to jump off topic, but I'm pretty sure you helped to Willie Lynch
Oh, yeah.
philosophy
Oh, yeah.
of teaching us self-hate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stagnate.
It's definitely there. I mean, I look at the bank, that we're building a bank on the corner of 10th and Parade, and the Erie Bank will be our tenants there. And I say that correctly. Our tenants, like we own it, they will actually be paying us rent, or at least for 10 years on that building. When we talked about that, the folk who criticized us most were black folk.
Yeah.
And oftentimes black folk in a position of authority, black folks that had the ability to say, let me come alongside these brothers and help them figure this out or help pull whatever strings that I have the ability to pull. That wasn't there. And I don't speak disparagingly of those brothers and sisters that were in that situation. I do understand that when you fight through, the best way I can tell you is to show you. And once you show somebody, people have a tendency of coming around. Some of the same haters have come around like, hey, man.
And if he can do it, I can do it.
And then maybe we can work together a little bit or what have you. So, but you got to be willing to fight through that, so that the negativity for me, people don't know my background. If they did, I won't unpack it right here today because that'll be the whole show. But because of my background, negativity and hate is fuel. And so my haters have no idea, like, dude, you are my biggest driver and you don't even know it. Especially if you call yourself hating on me publicly. That fills my tank up better than anything. So the people that hate me the most really have had the largest hand in my success. So it's this self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, man, if you don't like me, your best thing is just don't even say it to nobody. Because when it gets back to me, it just powers me up. It's like plugging in that cell phone. And so I've been able to just remanufacture that energy, man, into something positive.
So like how the public like visibly intensifies like both success and failures.
Give me that question again.
How should like being in the public eye intensify like your failures or your successes?
Oh man, well first of all, it amplifies everything you say and do. And the best thing you can do is to whatever extent take control of that as early as you can if you allow yourself to be put into a box and have other people interpret who they think you are and who they think you should be. That will become the defining factor of how you move. And so as early as possible, you want to try to give as much of the real you as possible, and you set the expectations, and that's something that if you do it right can enhance the journey. But your voice becomes bigger, and then you have the challenge of, how do I use that, right? And I'm very selective, especially behind closed doors. I've had meetings, and some people may struggle to believe this. I have a lot of official meetings where people will have to draw me out. Marcus, you've been really quiet. What are your thoughts? Because I've learned to reserve my 2 cents. If you're the person who has 2 cents about every damn thing, people tend to tune you. I don't know if I like that. I think I would do that differently. Every 5 minutes, and it doesn't become important. But the rooms that I'm in, they've learned if I go in, people sit up and they lean in because I reserve those moments because I know it's going to land like a 747 because of the things that I've done and the reputation that I've amassed over time. So I don't squander that, in those rooms. As far as my own personal behavior, again, I level set the expectations. You catch me at the Theory Club in the cigar room, you're going to catch me, doing the Henny straight with the cigar, and if that offends you, I don't know what to tell you. This is how I unwind. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, because I feel like, I ask that because like most of the time, like people don't think you got a private life or personal life. Because you always doing stuff for the public or you that image. And it'd be like kind of hard to separate yourself from Marcus, my bro, from Marcus as the CEO, And like, I think it's important to like people to see and hear like it's 2 different hats to be worn.
Absolutely. And I will say this, even when I get out in Erie, I've got my corners that I like to go to when I want to have a beer or two and just not be bothered per se. And the places that I really enjoy frequenting, especially in my own neighborhood, I only hit them up every now and then. And I think when I'm out of town on business or with family, those are the times that I really get a chance to let my hair down and just really do me. So I do things the way I normally would when I'm out and about here, but I really curtail how often they see that side. You're not going to put your finger on me as a regular. Yeah, it's Friday at 5 o'clock. You'll be walking through the door. No, it's a situation when they see me. People enjoy seeing me when they do. And when they do, I just, I'm me, especially if I'm in a space where it's a whole lot of black folk, who have known me since I was a kid. They know me as Merton Joe's son and, the King Center kid. And it's a level of understanding. When I'm with that crowd, especially, they like, listen, man, known this dude all his life. They're not going to trip if you're doing shots at the bar with your friends you graduate high school with. Nah, I do that at, the tap house or something. It may make social media. So you just use a level of discernment, man. But I never give them too much. But there's that private life, man. And, I love spending time with my wife and kids, and that side of me is that takes up the majority of my life outside of community. I don't miss anything. I don't miss my son's athletic events, my daughter's events. My wife and I do a lot of things together, so it's a balance. I had to learn it, but it's a balance.
All right, so that kind of like lead me up to the next question. How difficult is it for you to like separate your personal accolades with your professional accolades?
Yeah.
Because like you said earlier, sometimes you probably be in the room with advisors that's more experienced than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they ain't got the accolades that you got. You know?
Yeah.
Or you deal with people that's probably been in the field or had experience, but you new to this room.
Yeah.
But like you come with the credentials though, you know?
Yeah.
How do you be humble in those situations?
Yeah. And one, that's an excellent question, because that is one of the most challenging parts of this journey. There are times where you should be leaning in and you should be listening. You know, now I mentioned Martin III. I remember one time in Atlanta when I was learning politics myself and a handful of our friends, we just got done, working out door to door on some political things, putting some signs out, putting flyers out, things along those lines. And we were campaigning for Congressman David Scott. We get back to the campaign headquarters, and there's Congressman Scott. His co-treasurers are Andrew Young, best friend of Dr. King when he was alive, and Hank Aaron, his brother-in-law, because Congressman Scott to this very day is married to Hank Aaron's sister Alfreda.
Yeah.
They're there talking with John Lewis. We in the back of the room, and they jokingly say, "Y'all young brothers awfully quiet back there. What am I supposed to be saying? I'm supposed to be shutting up and listening in this situation." We was like church mice in there, man. I want to hear everything. We learned some interesting things about Jesse Jackson, but I'll save that for another time. And so it's like that now, in the room with certain people, man, and, when to listen and when to exert the fact that you have experience and you have things that God has gifted you in as well. And knowing when and when not to, because there's times that you should put that best foot forward and kind of make your presence felt in the room. And there's other times that you ought to fall back. And when you don't know the difference, it can be tricky. I have the privilege of being around Mr. Hagan a lot of times, Mr. Thomas B. Hagan. And, Erie's famous billionaire.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to ask questions and do a lot of listening when I'm around Mr. Hagan, because he is a wealth of knowledge, historically, financially, and the list goes on. He's a perfect example of when I get his time, I am committed to learning.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about that is because he respects what I've done in community and what I'm doing, he will ask me a lot of questions because he's like, I'm fascinated at what you've done and what you're doing. So, but I'll always defer to respect for everything that he's done up to this point, So, and with every audience is different, man. That's where mentoring comes in. You need good mentors when you start to get into different rooms so they can help you figure out, when do I shut up? and when do I sit up and say, now, wait a minute, now I am Marcus S. Atkinson, blah, blah. when and good mentors, Fred Rush has been one of those for me to help me kind of figure out, nah, you need to lean into that, or nah, you need to just kind of do some. I've had a lot of people that help me figure all of that kind of stuff out.
And so, the show is about failure. So I wanted what was the time in your journey and leadership you feel like you failed yourself, the public, or indifference?
Oh, man. Well, when it comes to the term failure, it is a failure when you don't learn anything. And so the term setback is always my favorite. Failure is, again, I went through it and I'm not any better, smarter, or wiser behind it. And I always take something from it. I think the setbacks that I've had have always happened because I didn't know when to step into my own in a given situation. When you get lost in yourself and allow other people to dictate too much of your journey. I've had a lot of those kind of regrets. And even leading up to the Eastside Renaissance, I had a business deal going on in Atlanta at one point with two business partners. And, one person in particular, we couldn't see eye to eye.
Yeah. And
my spirit told me to take it a certain direction, and the way it ended, I wasn't okay with the way it ended. To this very day, I'm not okay with the way it ended. And I learned from it. But the one thing I took away from that was the things that I was convicted about in my gut. I'm like, I was right. But then I also was kicking myself a little bit because I went too hard on insignificant things that I could have just gave in on for the greater good. I didn't have any balance. And so I look at all of these different areas in my career and my community journey where there's been transition. Rob, I really don't have a lot of regrets, man. I really don't. I think that my biggest regret would have been sticking around any one particular situation too long. And I think that's the thing that I've gotten right when it was time to just say goodbye. I've had some wonderful experiences, and I've moved on from each of them, which has got me to where I am right now. And at some point, I'll move on from this. But in terms of failures and setbacks, it's learning balance in some situations. Because when seasons close, man, that's certainly not a negative thing.
Yeah.
You know what's negative is when you go from, winter to spring and you still wearing the bomber jacket in 70 degrees, you cussing folk out because you hot. Take the damn jacket off, bro. You the one that's insisting that the season is no more. It's you're out of season, and that's where your discomfort is coming from. If you recognize that the season is changing, there's no reason in the world it shouldn't be able to change and keep things intact in terms of your working relationships. I haven't always gotten that right.
Yeah.
So my regret oftentimes when I do have them is rooted in that. Like that season could have changed without anybody feeling any kind of way negatively, because it's not a negative. When you put it all on the table and say it and do it the right way, it's not a negative.
Yeah, I feel you. And so that kind of like buttered me up for this. Like you said, when you start stepping into your own role, which I just sum it up to your confidence.
That's right.
When you start finding your confidence, how do you find ways to maintain that?
Yeah.
I feel like you face the setback or you getting pushed back and stuff.
Oh, man, little wins, man. It's those incremental wins. It's the same thing I preach to my kids, man, young and old. It's the same thing I preach to the young people that I mentor. Those incremental wins. We speak to young people now. We've got a cohort going on right now at our office for the Eastside Renaissance. Because we're opening up Erie Bank, we do financial literacy classes. And we're partnered with this young lady named Danielle Randall, and she's got an organization called For the Win. Does an excellent job. One of the things I say to people about financial goals, you'll ask young bucks, give me a financial goal. I want the Lamborghini. I want the Bugatti. I want the house on the water. Why don't we start with you filling your gas tank up instead of saying, give me 5 on, right? Why not when the check comes or when the utility bill comes in the mail, to have the wherewithal financially to just open up the envelope, see how much the bill is, write the check out right then and there, and just put it back in the mailbox. That level of discipline, those little wins get you ready for the big wins. It's those little things that you do right. And so how do you keep that confidence? Man, I keep track of the little wins, bro. I can tell you the small things that went well for me as much as I can the large things, because those smaller things lead up to it. And then when you get the big wins, I'm also in the habit of celebrating those wins. When we inked the deal on the bank, we went out of town and we celebrated. That was a huge, it wasn't even so much a huge I told you so. It was a huge affirmation to, we said we can do it and we did it.
Like y'all off to a good start.
Did it. Because it flew in the face of all conventional wisdom. Even people that ran and worked and ran banks, was where they're not building banks in the inner city anymore. There were all of these reasons, some very logical and legitimate reasons as to why this would not work.
Yeah.
And when we inked the deal, we took time to celebrate. We've done that for every building commercially, every building residentially. Those little wins, every grant that we've gotten, every partnership that we've brokered, all of these incremental wins build your confidence. And they say, it's that affirmation of keep going, man. You got this. The gut feeling that you had is right. And the direction that you're going in is right. There may be a left or a right that you didn't anticipate, but you're still moving in that direction. And that's, for me, how it works, man. It's you measure it day in and day out, week in and week out, which is why when people, if you know me personally, if we interface at one point and we get back together 6 months later, there's always, and some people have picked up on this, man, you turn your back for 5 seconds, you always got something new going. I measure my growth daily.
Yeah.
It keeps me going. If you don't do that, it's that one step at a time thing. If you don't do that, I feel like you run out of gas and you run out of the will to even keep going. But I keep track of those moments, man, and it reminds me, yeah, you're on the right track.
Yeah. And so another thing I also want to hit on The 100 Black Men.
100 Black Men.
I know you talk a lot about her mentor.
Yeah.
One of the episodes I got is like the importance of like having an OG, a mentor, somebody to give you the game. You know, it's like nowadays generation, everybody want to say they did it on their own. They don't need nobody. I just want you to like go into like the challenges of like being that example for the next person.
Yeah.
Through the 100 Black Men, through being a father and stuff like that.
Yeah. The challenges are like it is with anything else. You know, mentoring is relational. It's a relationship. And when you're in a relationship, there's no such thing as giving of yourself to somebody or something without the risk of being disappointed, hurt, frustrated, all of the above. And so that comes along with it. And, you know, as I said earlier, when I was talking about mentoring young people that are going through what I've gone through of having a lot of heat on their journey and being thrust into the limelight. And as I've said, some have done well, some have done it, have struggled with it. And I think the ones that struggle with it, you know, you struggle right along with that because it's like, well, dude, you asked for my advice. I gave you my advice, and yet you fall into these pitfalls anyways. It has to come with some grace because at the end of the day, you like, even though you're giving this person advice and wisdom, you're giving them gain, there's still a process they got to go through on their own. That frustration is just a part of the whole thing of having relationships, man. So that's a big part of it. And, but it's 100% necessary. You know, it's even frustrating now. I don't know how many millennials are listening to this conversation. I got to say this, man. Y'all can email me and push it back, man. I've never seen such a large number of young people with potential that absolutely positively refuse to ask for advice.
Ask for help.
Refuse to ask for help. Refuse to ask for guidance. Absolutely refuse. And I'm impressed by it. I'm proud of a lot of them. I normally don't get conversation from them about their journeys until, you know, somebody or something has their foot up their behinds. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey man, can we talk? Look, bro, we could have had this conversation when you jumped on the journey.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm one of those millennials, man. It took me a lot of trial and error, just hardship, bro, to like really humble myself to ask for help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from pride, man. We know it all, don't know nothing at all. You know, it's just like, until you go through it, you start to understand that, like, you ain't got it on your own.
Yeah.
You know, it's an easier path. It's an easier way to just reach out and like, yo, man, can you give me a pointer?
Now, you know, and listen, Rob, to be fair, the pattern in Erie, and this is one of the things through 100 Black Men and even through some of my personal mentoring outside of that, a pattern that I hope we can break. When I was coming up the ranks, especially in the African-American community, man, a whole lot of brothers and sisters, I'll use Black men in particular, were like, get it how you get it. They didn't offer advice. And a lot of the same Black men that I admire, they created this environment of, you know, let them thrive or let them drown, one of the two. And you learn to have to go out and take and create your own opportunities as opposed to somebody putting their hand around your shoulder and say, listen, man, I got you. There's a lot of doors that I kicked in, or, you know, until my shins were sore.
Yeah.
That somebody else up there who looked like me could have just opened.
Yeah.
And introduced me through and to. And so I think a lot of the young bucks behind us have probably looked at this power struggle. And I firmly believe that plays into the mentality of, I ain't asking none of them for nothing. I'm going to just go do what I got to do. That's some wisdom to that. You got to take the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
But when somebody's been there, done that, and they've navigated that season, you know, if they've been through the harshest winters, get their advice on what kind of snow tires to buy.
How we bought the web. I'm gonna do like, how do you stay warm in Erie?
What brand of snowblower actually blows the snow, and what brand gives, you know what I'm saying, pair of boots. You're right. I mean, don't just, you know, go out there and freeze and have to figure out in hindsight. And so I'm hoping that we can be instrumental in breaking that pattern. And I think that there's some of that to it, man. But on the positive, there's a lot of very talented 30-somethings, man, and early 40-somethings floating around in Erie, man, that I'm just really proud of.
Yeah.
You know, and anytime they ask something that I feel like I can give them a value, I'm more than happy to give it.
No, I feel that because me and my nephew, we just had a conversation. I mean, he older than me. We just talking about, like, how the generations before us, right, in the family could have gave us the opportunity.
Yeah. And,
you know, we ain't really had those handouts. You know what I mean? Like you said, it was pretty much get it on your own for real.
Yeah.
We use an example like my dad did 30-some years in the steel mill, you know?
Yeah.
It could have been easy for him, use him as a referral to get us in there. Or like, apply for this, I'm going to walk you through who to go see, who to go talk to type of thing. I feel like growing up, we ain't really had those avenues for real. I mean, we seen successful people in our lives, but it was like a secret how we got our success, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we, especially in the Black community, man, we got to get a handle on it, because I am blessed with a vantage point or perspective that, and this isn't to brag, oftentimes it's more burden than advantage. I get to see all sides of Erie, and it can be burdensome. If you've ever seen the movie The Green Mile, and at the end when they wanted to save Brother Coffee, he's like, nah, I'm ready to go, because he was able to feel things that the average person couldn't feel. And he said, it's too much, man, it's too much. And when you are in a position where you can speculate about what the establishment is or is not doing for minorities, but when you get a chance to see it up close and personal, it's hard not to wage war repeatedly, because you're like, dude, I'm watching you do for each other what you wouldn't do for folks who look like me, and I'm supposed to not say nothing, you know. And you see so many different things that it can be a source of frustration, you know, at times. But as Black folk, you look at the establishment is going to do for the establishment. There's a whole group of kids out here in large part that has this thing figured out for them, because their parents are not going to put them in a position, or their mentors are not going to put them in a position where you figured out yourself, unless they just ruined it for themselves. My daughter just graduated from prep. She goes to school with a whole bunch of kids. She went to school with a whole bunch of kids who this thing is figured out for them. And they can go off and get drunk at college and do all the dumb stuff under the sun. And that safety net is going to be waiting. All right, now that I've drunk every keg on campus, I can come home and get nestled into the family business and get the bag. And you know, got the $400,000-$500,000 house at 30, and you still got an apartment at 30. Then you got our brothers and sisters who come from other countries, and oftentimes by necessity, they have built their own economies within the economy. And so when you go to their stores and their restaurants and their gas stations, by no coincidence, their relatives are working there. And another one springs up, and it's their family. And so we, especially in Erie, have to get a hold of this individualistic approach of, you know, I got my Negro, you got to get your. Oh man, we are falling behind from that mentality in this joint, man. We really are. We have to share some information and start leaning on the village to some extent, and pouring back into the village, because in terms of self-efficacy, my opinion, we are lagging behind greatly. And for as long as we've been in this country, and for as much as we've done in and for this country, there's just no excuse for that.
I feel you on that. I definitely believe in that. And our community lack unity, for real, man. That's just like you said earlier about the haters, you know, sometimes it comes from our own peoples and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I just want to like hit on like being resilient, like the bounce back, like through it all, you know.
Yeah.
And like how you stay strong. I know it's every moment a motivation.
Oh, it's not.
Some days get long, some nights be short, you know.
Yeah.
But like how you keep your resilience on fire for real?
Well, you know, one of the things that I've learned to embrace when I said that some situations you have to give grace is to get out of your own way and to get over yourself. And here's what I mean by that. You know, you have two icons in the African-American community nationally and globally. Jesse Jackson, you know, over the years, Jesse Jackson and Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan tells the story of where Jesse was, you know, at one point, Jesse had all these negatives to say about the minister. And when the minister organized the Black Men's March, you know, in Washington, and the Million Man March, and all these black men were coming from all over the country, and Jesse saw it was going to be effective. You know, suddenly Jesse wanted to have, you know, Jesse was now, brother, would you mind if I spoke to our brothers in D.C.? And instead of Minister Farrakhan coming at him negatively, as only Minister Farrakhan would, now, brother, you've done a lot of great work within our community. Of course you can speak to our people. It would be an honor to let you speak to our people. Mind you, Jesse been dogging them. Jesse pushes it. Well, brother, how long can I speak to our people? Well, brother, you've done all this work for our people, man. You speak to your heart's content. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting the time limit on you to speak. You see what he's doing here? You've taken every opportunity to have something negative to say about me. In this instance, I'm going to choose to honor your work instead of focusing on the things that I know you've said about me. And I've had my moments like that.
Yeah.
And that takes a level of you being able to get over yourself. Because if you're saying this is about the community, this is about the culture, then you're going to have those moments where, well, dude, this is bigger than you.
Yeah.
He said this, he did that. But does the culture win? Does the community win? If y'all, then help the community and the culture win. Get over yourself,
The personal disputes.
Stuff. Get over yourself. And so this is why, man, it's just like and so many of these relationships come back around, but somebody has to have the maturity and the wherewithal to have that outlook and that attitude. So that's the way I look at it. And if it's somebody or something that's just so toxic, then you just learn to let it go. So every day isn't roses. Every day isn't gravy. You're absolutely right about that. And the days that it's a negative, I look for the win in it. And then I really analyze the person or persons that are in this conversation, that are a part of this feeling or this occasion is bringing me so much angst internally. And I say, what role do they play for the community that I'm trying to serve? Well, if it's a significant role, then I'll wait for this person or this opportunity to come back around and we'll fix it and keep it moving. They don't play a significant role, then I just let it be where it is. You get the high when I see you and you can buy when I see you, but I'll just leave it at that.
I understand. And also I want to highlight the importance on mental health and leadership, not just in leadership, but also in Black community of the stressors, the anxieties, the tug of war, the mental health aspect that come with being in leadership.
Yeah, let me say proudly, and I've said this on multiple occasions, and I'm repetitive about it for a reason. I am in counseling every week and have been for the last 4 years, roughly. And unless something happens, I try not to miss an appointment. I learned that I had several self-destruct buttons. And I had a general idea of where some of it may have come from. But especially now, I've been helped to decode and detangle some of my past experiences and put my finger on, this was the trauma, this was the outcome, these are the outputs or the actions that are born from that trauma. And I'm like, that's real. And the first couple times that my therapist helped me put my finger on it, and Marcus, listen, here's what I've identified, X, Y, and Z, and I feel like it traces back to this moment. Do you find yourself doing blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, yes, I do. When I'm getting excited because he was helping me figure myself out, Now, let's look at this at a micro and a macro level. On a micro level, especially in this day and age, man, with so much hyper technology, and you look at all statistically speaking on the rat race we call America and life in general, who's not being traumatized regularly in this joint? And how do you process that? Is you can't hide behind the bottle. That leads to its own issue. You can't hide behind substance abuse. Some people hide behind sex, and that becomes an addiction, gambling. If you don't have a way to process it, it gives rise to some sort of negative behavior that just helps you spiral more. But if you look at us as a people, Rob, think about it, man. Us suppressing how we really felt, our true feelings, was a defense mechanism that was necessary to our survival. You walking down the street with your family and somebody yelling the N-word at you legally.
Yeah.
I can't act out. I can go to jail and you don't even have to have just cause.
Get killed, get my family on.
Exactly.
Anything.
Right? On the job, on the street. I mean, there were so many occasions where Black folk weren't even in a position, didn't have the luxury to say, I'm bothered by this, or I need to process that. Society didn't give a damn how we felt. And so as a defense mechanism, as a survival mechanism, we had to push down and push through. And then we sent that trauma to the next person, and it became an inherited trauma. Let me say this very quick for those that are listening. Why do you think to this very second Black men are so hypersensitive to being disrespected? The trauma of our great-grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers, the trauma of them being disrespected publicly and they couldn't do a thing about it.
Versus now.
Right? The one thing all of us noticed about our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers, if you had the privilege of knowing them, if you've ever seen them get disrespected in their own home, boy, you saw a different side of them. Disrespect was oh man, it was anathema. You bet not. And even to this very day, we've all, as black men, we've inherited that distaste, that deep-rooted distaste for disrespect. It's inherited trauma, man. So all that to say, brother, I'm a firm believer if you are in a position to have somebody help you detangle these emotions and process these emotions, you have to take it. You can't even govern and lead yourself, let alone other folks.
Yeah.
You know, and so I believe in it, man. And we have to get out of this thing where it is weakness, at least the perception of it in our community is that it's weakness.
That's what it's been associated with for a long time, man. I just came for therapy today, this morning. I was just talking to my therapist about, like, I never took it to account that my dad was born in 1941 in Mississippi, you know, like all the stuff he endured. And then, you know, growing up as a kid, wondering why I didn't get that affection, you know, why I get that expression of love the way everybody else on TV did or around me.
Right.
So it wasn't the Cosby family at home. I mean, I knew Dad loved us. He provided, he gave us, he disciplines, but the only emotion we really seen was he was upset. You know, that like you said, the disrespect, I mean, took the roof off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this was prophetic. Man, I had a relative of mine, and I never had the conversation that very similar thoughts about my own dad. And out of the blue, this relative just said, "Hey, man, listen, I just feel like you need to hear this, man. Your father did the best he could." And I'm like, where's that coming from? It was a struggle, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if the Holy Spirit, whatever prompted you to say that, brother. And trust me, it was a word that I needed. And at the end of the day, Rob, that's what it comes to. People use the tools that they've been given. If you've been given a pair of pliers and that's the only tool that you've been given, you trying to use that set of pliers for everything.
Like nails,
you know that? You hammering stuff on the back end of those pliers. You trying to pull screws out of the wall. You twisting those pliers. It's the only tool that you've been given. You know, it'd be a luxury to have for somebody to give you a toolbox that had all of these different nuanced tools.
Yeah.
Well, that's true in life, man. People use what they have, bro. You think I want this? I want us to be closer. I want us to be better. I want you to feel the fact that I love you. You know, if the only way that I know to show it is to put clothes on your back and a roof over your head and to whoop your behind when you stand out of line, those are the tools that I've been given. And in his way, it's like, I do love my son.
Yeah.
This is how men show it. It's what he's been taught.
I feel.
You know?
And so, like, a question. I mean, we're good towards the end of this episode. I want to ask a couple good questions before we leave out. Like, what was what type of words of wisdom you got from Marcus 20 years ago when you first started out?
Bro, man, 20 years ago, 1,000%, because my journey started when I left the family religion.
Yeah.
And I got ostracized for it. And I mean, I got ostracized for it, man. I mean, this is the thing that chased me to therapy the most.
Yeah.
I would tell that 20-year-old Marcus, trust your gut. And if you lose everybody over being true to your journey, it's okay. Because I wished I'd have broke free 10 years earlier, 5 years earlier, you know. And I didn't know what the other side of it looked like. I just knew that I would be stripped of a lot of the people that I loved. And I was.
Yeah.
And it hurt. And it destroyed me. And it made an alcoholic. I did all kinds of things to me. But it was the right thing. I didn't, and God put the right people in my path to help me process it. So I would say, it's okay. Take the leap. You've been thinking about it, because I was thinking about it at an early age. You thinking about it, take the leap. It's going to hurt when you land, but it'll be okay.
All right. Next question. I want to ask for any, like, young people that's coming up in leadership, just starting their career or just being a public figure, what type of words of wisdom you got for them?
Talk to somebody. You know, we talked about mentoring. Mentoring is a double-edged sword. We look at the advice side of it. The other side of it is advocacy. And so you can be in a situation where I can go and tussle with somebody of political importance, let's just say in Erie, and say that, you know, I've got a name. I'm going to go in and I'm going to deal with that. If I bring Mel Witherspoon with me, or Fred Rush, or even Bishop Brown, it changes the dynamic in the room, because they bring all their history into the conversation. And when they say, now, wait a minute, you're not going to treat this young brother like this, it hits different than me saying it for myself. So it's not just the advice that you get from strong mentors, it's the advocacy and the protection, right? We all have those moments where you need to go get some backup and say, hey, man, I don't think this is fair. And they're not hearing me when I say it. It's different. If, oh, they didn't bought Marcus back with him. Oh, they bought so-and-so back with him. Yeah, can we have the conversation? And you even notice, oh, okay, the dialogue is changing because I bring all of my experience into the room. So for young bucks, man, get you some strong mentors and get a support system in every sense of the word.
All right. And last but not least, this is Let's Fail the Podcast, where we learn from our stumbling blocks and use them as pivotal points as our roads to success. What lesson have you learned from your setbacks since the beginning of your career?
Oh, that is a good one. Let me put my finger on one that I can answer succinctly. What lesson have I learned from my setbacks is there's no place like home. And oftentimes, for me anyways, the more setbacks I experienced, the more I grow, the more I live, the more I see that the way Erie, inner city Erie, Black Erie raised me was on point. And that everything that so much of what I do, even when they call themselves, dogging me for, so much of what I do with them in mind, because at the end of the day, we had a lot of people from our hood that loved us, man, and did what was right by us. And it's our turn to do that. Even if you get pushback, there's no place like home, man. So in those setbacks, I'm like, it's easy to take all your eggs out of that community basket and start spreading to these new folks because they got this, they got that, they got this position. Nah, man, the folk who was there when you were 5,
Yeah.
those people are on point, man. Keep that village in the equation.
All right. So, man, we're going to cut it out. Can you leave people with your handle, where to find you at, the podcast?
Yeah, you can find me next with Marcus Atkinson on WQLN, NPR, PBS. You go to the WQLN website. It's there. You can also find it on Facebook or Instagram. And, click on a couple of podcasts. Check it out, man. We have a lot of fun with our show.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it's my man Marcus Atkinson. He got a lot of good things going with the 100 Black Men, the Renaissance of Erie, Next 2.0, his consulting business and stuff. So, like, if y'all want to get a hold to him, just look him up and get there. But I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to Let's Fail the Podcast today, where we take our failures, we embrace them, and we use them as stepping stones instead of stumbling.
That's right.
Man. And until the next episode, y'all have a good week, and tune in for another show.
God broke me down, God broke me down, God broke me, God broke me down, God broke me down, God broke me, God broke me down, God broke me down, God broke me, God broke me down, down.
So that he could build me up.